my best advice would always be to...
So I hear this question all the time. I want to get into cybersecurity, but I don't know where or what to study for. Today, we're going to be laying that all out for you. Our guest today is going to talk to you about his career journey and provide tips to accelerate yours. He is the host of the InfoSec Pat YouTube channel, where he creates amazing tutorials about cybersecurity. Please welcome to the channel, Pat. Welcome. Thank you for taking the time to come on the channel.
Thank you so much, Dakota. I really appreciate it. And
absolutely.
I'm super stoked. This is going to be some fun times, and looking forward to, spreading some light into your on your channel and your audience. Anyone that wants to get into the cyber world, even in IT. You know what I mean? We can gradually get into from help desk to IT, and we'll get into more of that when we talk about my journey. But yeah,
absolutely. Well, let's dive really quick into your origin story. Like, how did you decide you wanted to be in cybersecurity?
Yeah, so into cyber was a little unique, right? So my story getting into cyber was on accident, to be honest. I probably repeated this story a lot of times. So for the folks that sound like a broken record, I'm sorry. But I'm a big person on sneakers. I'm a big sneakerhead. And in my undergrad degree, I was studying multimedia and system engineering. So I didn't know what I wanted to do in the computer world. I wanted to film skateboarding videos, and I wanted to be in LA doing all these big things. But lo and behold, I got my eBay hacked, selling sneakers. Oh, actually my PayPal, sorry. So when I had my PayPal hacked, I lost like $900 or something like that. And I was like, man, how did this happen? Obviously, I contacted PayPal and they gave me my money back, but it was super intriguing of how that happened. I just clicked on a link, maybe. I don't remember, to be quite frank. I don't know if it was a click on a link and I gave someone my credentials, or if I clicked on a phishing. I don't even know. All I know is when I went inside my app one day, I was like, where's my $900? Because that's when we had like the PayPal credit card or PayPal debit card.
Absolutely.
So when I went to buy something, I'm like, I got about $900, and it got declined. So I went back to my counselor when I was still in undergrad. This was when I was in my sophomore year of college. And I said, I don't know if this is a career. I don't know if I can change into this, but I want to hack. Like, what is that? Is that possible? And they said, it's called information systems security. There's a major called that. I was like, okay, get me out of this, IS course and get me into that, because I want to learn how to do that. So that's how the transition started into cyber. I didn't have my first cyber job, but that's where it all started. So I got hacked, and that's the reason why I was intrigued with doing cybersecurity.
Yeah, that's a really cool story. I mean, it sucks that you got hacked, and I can personally relate to the PayPal hack being hacked. I think most people have gone through that in one form or another. But let's talk about, how long did it take you to land your first cybersecurity position? And was there really anything you could have done to like speed up that process?
Yeah, good question. So where I was at that point, I was a system engineer. And as I was going to school, I was starting to do I guess back then they didn't call it like blue team, red team, purple team. I didn't think they really had a name. They just said, okay, you're going to be monitoring the firewalls. You're going to be doing, back then is SEP, semantic endpoint protection, doing all of the quote unquote blue team type stuff. And that's when I started so I actually was working at the same company, and I transitioned to take more of the security perspective. And then once I knew I wanted to get into like the offensive side, into the pen testing, the offensive hacking stuff, it took me probably from when I got probably a year and a half, I would say, to, after I got the blue team, we'll get into more of the CTFs, more of my hands-on hacking stuff. It took about a year and a half to actually land more of an offensive security.
Nice. So, well, it kind of leads me up to my next question. I see you have quite a few certifications on the wall behind you. Oh, yeah. What's your take on using certifications to land your first job in the cybersecurity field? And also, is there certain certifications that are better than others? Do you recommend certifications at all? Or is the college education route better?
That's a good question. So, yeah, that's just
Quite a
few
few
of them.
questions there, but
Yeah, yeah. There's only a few of them. That's more of my cyber ones, and I have a few over there. But my take on certifications, and you may have to repeat that question because there was a lot. But my take on certifications, I believe it's an entryway into whatever field you get into. If you're going to Microsoft, Cisco, VMware, cybersecurity, but let's stick on the cyber side. So when I was in college, when I went to grad school, I went to WGU, and they had like the CEH, CHFI, SSCP, which is up there, and then to get accredited, you can do the CISSP too, as well. So those certifications were good to get, but like having my CEH didn't really express that I really knew what I was doing, to be honest. It's not like you're going for a CCNA. So when you get your CCNA, right, you can probably configure a router, a switch, and blah, blah, blah. When you get your CEH, doesn't really mean you actually did any practical hacking. And that's why they changed up the CEH to compare to like EJPT, OSCP, PMPT, and they call it now the CEH Master. So there's a little hands-on keyboard. So yeah, go ahead and repeat the rest of the questions because I know it was
what's your thought on certifications to land that first job? Are there any certifications that are better than others?
Yeah, so I definitely think having the certification shows the discipline that you can start something and finish it, right? So to an employer that's saying, okay, you have the decency to start something and configure and finish it. I think it's super important, and having that for your first job will show that you have some discipline. But on top of that, you definitely should showcase some maybe hands-on videos, Hack the Box, Try Hack Me's, VulnHub, maybe your own personal lab at home. Set up some crazy stuff, like your own firewall and, doing your own stuff in your house so you can showcase that. Because there's some folks that want to get that experience that maybe their job is not exposing them to. Maybe a help desk guy that's like, okay, all I can do is touch Active Directory users of computers and all I have is, power user or operators or whatever and just reset passwords all day, or do a GP update to apply the new group policy or whatever the case may be. But they never really configured Active Directory, really understood how it really works. That's where, that home lab comes into play. And I think having that and showcasing that will definitely set you apart.
Absolutely. Now, you just mentioned, platforms such as Try Hack Me and Hack the Box, but what's your thought on, CTFs and, are they a good way to learn the skills that you need, or are they just kind of a fun thing to do in your spare time?
Yeah, that's a good question. And asking maybe John Hammett, he loves CTFs. He's a big...
Exactly.
He's all about it. I just started doing CTFs, to be quite frank. Before, I never did them because this is a fun fact. Maybe you have heard it, maybe you haven't. I'm not a video game guy, right? So I never really played video games in my life. So the CTFs always reminded me of like a video game. Like I have to go take this base 64 code and take it out of a file and, cat it out and put it into here and then go to CyberChef and do all this puzzle stuff. And I'm like, it's not realistic, right? It's not in the real world. You're not doing that kind of stuff. That's why I think like some of the Hack the Box stuff, now it's like, okay, like the Active Box, Forest. Okay, now we're really getting into the meat and potatoes. Now we're going to go ahead and run responder, capture your hash, use this to crack, pass the hash, crack map exec. Now there's more realistic boxes, but I was never really into them, to be honest, until probably about 2 years ago.
The question that I think a lot of people are wondering right now, do you think it is possible to jump straight into a cybersecurity role, or are there job roles that you think people should hold before they transition into cyber?
That's an awesome question. So if I was to go back, and I'm starting today from scratch, from electrician, because I was an electrician before I got into IT, and jumping into cyber, without understanding those fundamentals, I would be lost.
Absolutely.
I would be so lost. So there's some folks like from TCM Security, I think Joe, the mayor, He was like a mayor and then he became a pen tester. So I don't think he ever did any system network engineering from my understanding, from what I gathered, right? That's possible. Obviously, he's showcasing that it's possible. But I think it's going to be, very, very difficult to really understand the core concepts when you're trying to compromise or even trying to do the blue teaming stuff, right? Like if I'm looking at a log for SSH brute forcing, right? If I don't understand what SSH is or what SSH port it's running on or how SSH is even set up, what is a PKI? What's asymmetric key sets? What is all this stuff? You're going to be so lost. So having that, networking and systems fundamentals or, working in a help desk, maybe sysadmin, network admin, cloud admin, whatever, and transferring to whatever, like if you want to become a web app pen tester or, infrastructure or network pen tester or whatever you want to do, having the fundamentals of whatever avenue you want to go would be ideal. That's the path I took, and I think it's pretty beneficial.
Now, I'm curious, what is your favorite part about cybersecurity? What keeps you going? What keeps you wanting to learn more?
Yeah, that's a good one. So I think in my role is to educate the companies, right? If I'm either defending against it or breaking into it, at the end of the day, it's educating and advising this person put these countermeasures in place so there's no real adversary or real bad guy that's trying to do this, right? Your external perimeter, your external emails that are just lingering around on, hunter.io or on Shodan or whatever, information is exposed. So because I was able to do some, like, for example, DNS transfers and now compromise your DNS servers and now do some funky business, right? And if you have that, if you're using what's called DNSSEC, using that, with PKI infrastructure and stuff like that, we're talking about DNS security, it'll be a little harder to break, right? Because it's encrypted. But yeah, I think having that basic understanding will be so much better and beneficial.
I say on my channel all the time that, I really feel that a lot of people should start off at help desk. That's kind of, in a sense, a rite of passage. And I say that because, you learn so many different things on the help desk. You kind of interact with multiple technologies and you get a little bit of taste of everything, but it kind of cements the fundamental knowledge that you need to know to kind of jump off into any other career progression, whether you want to get into networking, cybersecurity or whatever. You kind of, it shows to also future employers that, you know what you're talking about. You have that actual experience now that you've done a year or two on the help desk, and you can transition into other roles using either certifications or whatever. But yeah, that's definitely something I think is, a really wise thing to do. Now, What are some things you wish you knew when you started your career journey? Like, if you could go back in time and tell yourself, some piece of advice, what would that be if you had to do it all over again?
So from the very beginning, or when I transitioned to cyber?
When you transitioned into cyber.
Learn more coding. I wish I knew more coding, and I neglected that because, remember, I come from systems. Yeah, now there's Python and programmability and Cisco and Puppet and all this Ansible and all this other fun stuff. But when I was doing it, there was no really automation. They were just like, you're going to go configure a router, you're going to go config T, interface, blah, 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 just do it and just push it out. Same thing with like PowerShell. Now, I know PowerShell enough to get myself in trouble, but, I wish I knew more of that, the programming side. So, that's where, to answer your question without going to a rabbit hole, programming and like code review, understanding code a lot better. That's what I think I missed out on. It's never Absolutely. Too late, but it's still, I don't know, still foreign to me.
I understand completely. Now, while we're talking about coding and programming, like, that's a question I get asked all the time. Like, should I study programming? What coding languages should I study? What do you see the most common, like, programming language in cybersecurity? And, what is your recommendations for people to study?
I think there's a couple. There's Python. There's PowerShell, especially if you're compromising Windows systems. You have to understand, invoking PowerShell scripts and stuff like that. The Go language, I think Ruby would be a little good to know, so you can make your own little exploits, because Metasploit, the framework that runs in Kali or runs anywhere, you can install it anywhere, that runs on Ruby. So, but I think Python, and it's an easy, like I can do Python. So if I can do it, anyone can do it. So, but a lot of the time, as long as you know how to read it and comprehend it, like you could take a Python script from GitHub, but if you run it, if it says, okay, line 36, blah, 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 you're getting the syntax error, you have to know, okay, I can take this offline, put it in PyCharm, and understand how to reprogram or, fix the problem. That's to my extent. I'm not writing programs.
You don't just throw it into Chat GPT now? Tell it to fix it for you?
That, if we're talking on that subject, yes. And that's what I do a lot. Like, okay, I need an email scraper. Chat GPT, please write me a Python script. And I think I did a video on my channel of creating a ping sweep or an nmap. I don't remember exactly what I did, but I was just doing it. I went on Chat GPT. I said, create this. I did it, changed the permissions to an executable, boom, boom. And then it was on its merry way, and it created it in 30 seconds. So,
well, since we're talking about AI, what is your thoughts about AI and cybersecurity? Is it going to take our jobs in the future, or do we have to worry about Skynet taking over? What do you think is the role AI is going to play in our future of cybersecurity?
I think it's going to be a good thing. I think. I don't think there's going to ever be, at least in my time, right? I'm not too young and I'm not too old, but hopefully the time I retire, I still have, I can still do manual stuff. But I always think there's still going to be like manual testing. If we're talking about pen testing, we're talking about, because a robot's not going to be able to manually do something, because we already have a lot of automated tools, right? We can automate scans, we can automate these things, but it's still going to be that, person to really overlook if it's code review or whatever. I think it still needs the human element to interact with it. We don't all have to go take a trade and become an electrician again. Like, oh man, a plumber. Because, yeah. But I think it's definitely a benefit. Will it make us smarter? I don't know about that. Because it's definitely made me a little stupider, because I don't need to do anything anymore. I just run it in there. Even to write my blogs or write something. Hey, I give you a little topic. Okay, I'm studying for, CYSA plus. Write a blog about my journey. Okay, here's your journey. This is what you do. Blah blah blah. Okay, thank you. So
it's really crazy. All the advancements of AI and stuff. And, I really think that AI is going to be a great tool for people in the IT field in general. And I think the people who utilize it and, take advantage of it, they're not necessarily take advantage of it. I think the people who utilize it and leverage the tool that it is are going to really succeed in the IT field. And the people who try to ignore it, they're really going to start falling behind. The IT field is constantly evolving, and you have to constantly be learning and leveling up your skill sets to really stay, to be successful in the field. Speaking of kind of constantly leveling up your skills, like what is one thing you do to try to stay ahead of the game? Technology, and especially in cybersecurity, things evolve so quickly. You have to constantly be learning. What are some resources and tools you use to try to stay ahead of the game?
Yeah, so I definitely follow a lot of blogs, Twitter, Bleeping Computer. There's a couple sites I follow, stay up to date on the trends of the attacks, different, 0 days. That's pretty much, as far as the news, as far as the trends that are going out there, that's pretty much what I do. Also YouTube, like some people, make little blogs or make little videos about the latest and greatest, John being one of them. And I'll just, follow along and watch, see what's going on in the world. And to level up my skills, I'm always, I guess, testing my own stuff first before I go out in the wild. because I do have a pretty decent amount of technology running in my home. So I always test that first before I go out to the interwebs. Like I have a server in my house. I have, 2022 Active Directory. So like if I have Exchange server, I have stuff that's running mail out my house, So like if there's like, that crazy Exchange vulnerability that was going around in Outlook and stuff like that. So I was testing that on myself to see if, how it was reacting before I light off a fire to the clients. And it's like, oh, please do this. Because, my proof of concept is true. Like this thing is really crazy. And so yeah, try to do that.
Absolutely. Now, I want to talk a little bit about your YouTube channel because I think it's such a great resource to the community.
Thanks.
Do you mind kind of like talking about what you do over there at the channel and like how you got how did you decide you wanted to make content for cybersecurity?
And thank you for the compliment. Cheers, man. I really appreciate that. And likewise, I actually watched your NAS video the other day, and I have to say kudos. Like you made that thing so fancy, I might have to beat your head in.
That was like one of my first product demos ever, and I learned so much of what I didn't like in that video. Content creation is a learning process like anything, just like technology. And like I'm about to do another one. Synology sent me another NAS and about to do another one. I know so many things I'm going to do different, but I'm sorry to get off topic there. This is about your amazing YouTube channel.
Yeah, thank you. So how did I start my YouTube channel and why I started it? So during just before the pandemic in December 2019, I was studying for the Palo Alto PCNSE. And it was me and a group of friends. When I was studying for that, I would, create a Palo Alto firewall. I would do static routes, dynamic route, all like the configuration while we were studying. And I would upload it to Google Drive for me, Dakota, John, and the gang, for an example, right? And instead of us only viewing that and then discussing it tomorrow, like, okay, you got your stuff set up, you got your stuff set up. Oh, you had problems? Okay, let's jump on a Discord or whatever, Zoom. I used Zoom back then because that's when it was free for everyone for a few months because of the pandemic. And then one of my friends, Kenny, was like, dude, like you should just put this on YouTube. So it's not only for the gang, it can be for anyone that maybe has this question. I'm like, dude, I don't even know how to use YouTube. I really didn't. Like, I didn't even know. I never really even used it to view things. Like I never used YouTube. And he was like, dude, like, you have a lot of knowledge. You should share it. And I'm like, it's, because I taught like at schools, public universities here in Florida. Like, I'm good at, like, I can teach a topic, but going in front of a camera, talking to myself, it was like an anxiety attack and a half. But it was weird because when I was doing my lab, instead of saying, hey guys, welcome back to another video, and today we're going to be doing XYZ, I'm like, yo, Dakota, so this is what your problem was. And I'm making the video and speaking directly to you instead of just talking to the world. So getting out of the routine of saying, okay, just you. Now it's like, hello world. That's if you look at my video, you look at my channel, I think my first video is how to install Palo Alto and VMware. And then it wasn't so much about just cybersecurity. I just wanted to put pretty much everything I had in here on the internet, right? So I did Cisco, I did Windows, I did a lot of stuff. If it just comes to my head, I just made a video about it. Yeah, and I would always have friends back home in New York, like, hey, I want to get into IT or computers. How do I do it? And I would just talk on the phone with them for hours. And I would just then I would make videos, along the topic that you're asking and say, hey, Tom, this is, it's for you, but it's for the whole world. Like, I'm making this for you because you asked about this. And it just snowballed. And I'm like, okay, then I started putting stuff on Twitter, LinkedIn, and I started getting a few, it took a while, like a year, maybe a little over a year to get some traction. And I never thought about giving up, because I'm just following up with the questions I have in my head. Like, the thing was, if I get 5 views or if I get 1 million views, I help those 5 people, and that's all I care about, right? So that was more of my my outlook on it. And that's the reason why I continued making YouTube videos, because, obviously reaching people that needed help and just delivering free content, free training, and then obviously InfoSec Pat, I was doing a lot of hacking stuff in the beginning, then I would get a lot of strikes. So I had to pull back and start doing some Cisco stuff, some other topics, and try to learn how is that guy able to upload that video and he's saying hack all over it, and I'm just using the word pen test or Wi-Fi testing or whatever, and I'm getting whacked. So I still don't, 3 years later, I still don't understand that, but that's a whole nother topic.
Absolutely. YouTube is just another challenge in itself. So it's, I really think your videos are great. I can tell they're helping out quite a few people. So I really appreciate that. Speaking of, if people want to find and, connect with you more, where can they go to find you?
Yeah. So I'm probably the most active on probably Instagram. Obviously I have a Discord server. I have Twitter, but I think Instagram, if you want to reach out, is probably the easiest and quickest way. Or obviously join my Discord, and my Discord server is in probably my latest videos on my YouTube channel, so you can just join the fun. It's pretty dead because I don't even know how to use Discord. I thank to my mods that helped me out, so kudos to you guys. Thank you. And yeah, that's pretty much, and if I'm very, very easy to approach. I don't want to throw names out there, but I'm not like your typical YouTuber that has 1 million people and then, I say bugger off because you're a nobody, Right. And we did talk about that a little bit, offline, and never feel that you can't reach out. I'm a resource. Yes, I do have a life outside of this camera, a family and all that stuff, but I'll get to you whenever I can. Don't ever think I'm ignoring you. I just have, priorities as well. So just want to throw all that out there.
Absolutely. And we'll definitely make sure and link to your resources, your YouTube channel, all your other social media platforms down in the description or the show notes below. Do you have any other advice you want to give people that are just looking to make this career change?
My best advice would always be to stay focused, keep the challenge, keep challenging yourself. That's what I meant. One big advice is don't chase the money. If you're doing it just for money, you can do many things for money, right? So if you're jumping into cyber because, everyone's saying you're going to get paid $1 million and, all these crazy channels, not YouTube channels, I've been thinking of channels when you're watching TV, like ads or whatever, scrolling up, stop here, you're going to make $50 million if you learn this in 6 months. It's BS, that's just, don't stop learning and just keep connecting with folks, with like-minded folks, and, don't ever feel discouraged. If someone doesn't reach back out, and including myself, I do get a lot, because I said now Instagram, and now I'm probably going to get 1 million messages on Instagram. And literally, I'm not lying, from, I probably get 40 to 50, DMs a day on Instagram. And obviously there's a lot of people that just, hey, I want to hack my girlfriend's account. Okay, you delete, but
I've gotten those before too.
Yeah, maybe out of the 50, maybe there's probably 10 that have legit questions. Like they watched one of my videos and they had an error, or they watched, they have a question about a certification they're studying for. But there's a lot of bozos out there that, if you ever watching those guys, I'm not responding to you, have some context and common sense. I'm not going to rob the bank for you. You know what I mean? If I want to do that, I'll rob it for myself. I want to do it for you. But yeah, that's what what's best.
Absolutely. Well, I really appreciate you taking the time to give us so much useful insight into the field. And I really hope you come on the channel again sometime in the future.
Yep. I thank you so much, Dakota. Likewise, have to have you on mine.
Absolutely. Anytime. Well, I really hope you guys enjoyed this video. And until next time, keep learning.